Welcome to Strength Foundation.
Welcome back to the Strength Foundation community. Listen, if you're getting ready for your NSCA exam, you already know some chapters are just, well, they're everything. And Chapter 12 is definitely one of them. We're going way beyond just stretching here. We're talking about the real science behind preparation and movement. If you can nail this stuff down, you're not just getting closer to passing that test, you're really on your way to becoming a much smarter, way more effective coach. So here's what we're going to break down today. First, we're tackling the ramp warm-up protocol. This is the modern way to do it. Then we'll dive deep into the science of stretching, especially that PNF stuff. After that, we'll get super practical with body weight and stability ball technique. And we'll wrap it all up with the absolute must-know takeaways you need for your exam. Let's get into it. All right, first up, the warm-up. And hey, if you're still thinking a warm-up is just, 5-minute jog on the treadmill, the NSCA really wants you to think bigger. We are talking about a systematic, structured protocol that's actually designed for peak performance. It's a huge step up from some of the older, kind of random warm-ups you might have seen. Okay, so first things first, we've got to get clear on the difference between a general and a specific warm-up. A general warm-up, like you see on the left, think jogging, cycling, that's all about the physiology. You're just trying to get your blood flowing, raise your core temperature, and literally warm up the muscles. But the specific warm-up, over on the right, that's where the real magic is. This is all about neurological prep. You are rehearsing the exact movement patterns you're about to perform. It's like giving your brain and body a dress rehearsal for the main event. And that leads us perfectly into the ramp protocol. Now, you are absolutely going to see this on your exam, so lock this in. It's this awesome system that stands for raise, activate, mobilize, and potentiate. So you start by raising body temp, just like a general warm-up. Then you activate the key muscles you're about to use, so glute bridges before a heavy squat day, right? Next, you mobilize the joints, taking them through their full range of motion. And finally, and this is the game changer, you potentiate. This is where you crank up the intensity with movements that are very specific to your sport or lift, getting that nervous system fired up and ready to go. It's a perfect, seamless bridge from prep to performance. So we've used romp to get the body ready to move. But what's next? Well, you've got to make sure the body actually has the range of motion to move well in the first place. And that's where flexibility comes in. The NSCA text gets really deep into the science here, and honestly, if you want to be a top-tier coach, this stuff is non-negotiable. This chart here breaks down the 3 big methods you've got to know. You've got static stretching, that's your classic, hold a stretch for 30 seconds. It's great for overall flexibility, but probably best to save it for after your workout. Then you've got dynamic stretching. Think leg swings, arm circles, you're actively moving through a range of motion. This is what you want to be doing in your warm-up. And last we have ballistic stretching. This is the one with bouncing movements, and here's the big exam key. The NSCA flags this as having a high risk of injury. Why? Because all that bouncing can actually trigger the body's protective stretch reflex and work against you. Now let's talk about a term that sounds super complicated, but is actually, well, it's just brilliant. PNF, or proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. This is basically an advanced technique that lets you make some seriously rapid gains in flexibility. See, PNF isn't just about yanking on a muscle. It's about using your own nervous system to trick a muscle into relaxing deeper, which then lets you get a much better stretch. So to really get PNF, you have to know about the Golgi tendon organ, or GTO. The easiest way to think about it is like a little smart sensor that lives in your tendons. When this sensor detects a big increase in muscle tension, like when you're contracting a muscle really hard, it sends a signal to your brain that says, whoa, things are getting pretty tense in here. Let's relax everything to make sure we don't get hurt. This automatic relaxation is the muscle's own built-in safety switch. And PNF techniques are all about cleverly hacking this safety switch to improve flexibility. So how do we actually use this? Let's walk through the hold-relax method. Okay. Step 1, a partner gently moves a client's limb into a passive stretch and holds it for about 10 seconds. Now, step 2, this is the magic part. The client isometrically contracts that muscle, pushing against the partner's resistance for about 6 seconds. This strong contraction is what fires up the GTO. And what does the GTO do? It hits that relaxation off switch. That brings us to step 3, where the muscle is now relaxed, allowing the partner to ease into a much deeper passive stretch for about 30 seconds. It's just a brilliant practical use of neurophysiology. All right, theory's great, but the NSCA exam, it's all about application, right? So what does this stuff actually look like in the gym? Let's get practical and really dial in on the technique details for some common bodyweight and stability ball exercises. Look, before you even start an exercise, safety and setup have to be number one, and the textbook is super clear about this for stability balls. First off, make sure the ball is fully inflated. To get the right size, have your client sit on it. Their thighs should be parallel to the floor. If their knees are way up or way down, it's the wrong size ball. Simple as that. And always do these exercises after a good warm-up. You've got to get the setup right before you even think about the first rep. Now, why do we harp on techniques so much? It's not just about being safe, it's about actually getting results. And this quote right from the research proves it. They found that ab muscle activation was way higher during a crunch when the ball was placed in exactly the right spot, right at the bottom edge of the shoulder blades. It just goes to show you, your position dictates your performance. So, building right off that research, let's define what a correct stability ball crunch looks like. You want to position that ball right under the lower back, so it's lined up with the bottom of the shoulder blades. This spot is key because it gives you a better range of motion and, like we just saw, way more muscle activation. From there, make sure your feet are flat and stable on the ground, and just move in a slow, controlled way. No bouncing, no momentum, just pure, controlled movement. And on the flip side, here are the mistakes you need to watch out for. Placing the ball way too high on the upper back, or jamming it way too low into the small of their back. Both of those positions are going to mess with the effectiveness and the stability of the exercise. And of course, the big one is just doing it too fast. Rushing the movement basically turns it into a momentum exercise instead of an ab exercise, and that just defeats the whole point. Okay, we have covered a ton of ground, so let's bring it all home and boil it down to the absolute must-know concepts from Chapter 12. Think of this as your final checklist before exam day. This is the stuff you really need to focus on. Here we go. 1. Know the ramp protocol inside and out, what the letters stand for and why it works. 2. Be able to tell the difference between static, dynamic, and ballistic stretching and know when to use each one. 3. Understand the role of the GTO in that PNF hold relax technique. It's the secret sauce. 4. When it comes to stability balls, remember, safety and proper technique always come before intensity. And finally, number 5, a huge takeaway. Dynamic and PNF stretching are your best bets for improving movement before a workout. You need to know these points cold. So I'm going to leave you with this question to think about. We've gone over all the science and the techniques, but as a coach, your job is to apply it. So think about that principle of specificity. How are you going to take something like the ramp protocol and tailor it perfectly for, say, a basketball player versus a powerlifter or just your average client? The answer to that is what takes you from being someone who just knows the textbook to being a real professional. Good luck with your studies. You got this.